morning.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. We are here on Monday, September 19th at 1:30 p.m. This is a meeting of the ARPA Commission, and just getting my agenda open. The first item on the agenda is call, which I think the only person missing is Stuart Cobb and Robin Campbell. Samantha just joined virtually. So that's good. The next item is approval of minutes, and I believe you we have all three of these now. Is that right, Mike?
I think we should be caught up.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to make a motion to accept them individually, go ahead.
I'll move to approve the August 29th, 22 minutes.
Your second?
Second.
Mike seconded. Any discussion about those, the August 29th, which was our last meeting, minutes? No? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Oh, Samantha, is that you?
Yes, I was saying aye.
Okay, all right, and then that means it passes. Did we want to do any of the other ones?
I'll move to approve the August 1st, 2022 minutes.
There's a second?
Awesome.
Troy seconded. Any discussion about that one? I believe that's the one that Mike just sent us today.
Mhm.
Kelsey filed it.
Okay, Kelsey filed it.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on unfinished business, on your A, request to be closed. Okay, ARPA for the radios. Okay, the budget is 38,000. The total expenditure is 28. I was just double checking the math on the balance. Is that accurate? Is that right? Somebody do it quick who has a
On the
28 minus 38. And plus, what I think is missing is it's not really 28 of a total expenditure because there were expenditures last year in 21-22, there was $7,000. So the total expenditure is 36, I think, and the return is only $1,985. I think is what's happening on here, Christina.
I'm gonna look at the tracker sheet.
How do we, yeah, look at the tracking sheet.
Which number?
So it's Article 4. Let's just double check it, make sure we have it right.
Okay.
So we have radios for DPW use, right?
Mhm, yep,
So you have it marked closed on 8-1, but
yeah.
unhide some of the columns. Do you have anything expended in last fiscal for the radios? Because I do, unless my
That
sheet's
came out
wrong.
of my budget.
Oh, that come out of your budget?
Yeah, it came out of equipment purchases.
The 7,068?
Yes. The only money that I asked for ARPA was just what that 28,000 was, or it came to 27, whatever.
It was 28,946.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the only thing.
okay,
Yeah.
let's just make sure that that's where it ended up.
'Cause
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so that was the intention.
that, yeah.
So let's just see, ARPA 4. ARPA 4. Well, it was coded to Fund 19, the 7,000 for 21-22. That's wrong.
That's wrong. Yeah, it was supposed to come out of my budget, out of the equipment purchases.
Oh. All right, well.
Can we go back and look at it and then make an adjustment here at our next meeting if we need to? Or are you saying there's no way to change how you coded it?
It's just getting late and I'm trying to close the books on the old year, but
I guess I'd want to make sure that there's not a duplicate
Yeah,
process amount within Troy's budget.
Well,
Yeah,
for
I
right
think
now,
so.
though, we're just talking about the accuracy of the minutes, but it sounds like the minutes were accurate, but it sounds
To
like,
what we know.
Yeah.
but it sounds like we've uncovered a different issue,
Yes,
so.
I think that's correct,
Mhm.
Christina. I
Okay.
think the minutes are. Yes, accurate to the intent
Mhm.
of what was supposed to happen.
But
Yeah.
we may need to deal with a larger issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Anything else about the minutes of August 1st? No. All right, let's vote. All in favor?
I,
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, passes. And then the last set of minutes, did we want to do those from July 11th?
I didn't see the 7-11 minutes. I don't know if anyone else did.
Yeah, I don't,
I think this one.
yeah, I don't think we have.
I don't know that I've seen them.
Not online.
Okay,
July 18th is online.
right. I have the
Yeah.
18th, I have the 1st, the 29th, I just don't have 7-11.
Okay,
Oh, I can check it. That's the one.
all right, well, we'll just move it on for next time. Correspondence, I don't have anything to share. I don't believe anything interesting. And that brings us to present to speak. Anybody? You guys want to say something?
Well, we met with Erica,
Uh-huh,
our executive board, and we discussed everything. I think we ironed everything pretty much out.
good,
When we get to the topic.
okay, right. So when we get to that part in the agenda, we'll talk in detail about it.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody online? There isn't anybody online.
There's just one person. Well, maybe not two.
Okay. Well, then we can move on. To new business, which, the first part of it is an update on the funding, which I got an email from Erica that she forwarded that indicated that, I don't know if it meant the earliest we would get the money is October 3rd, or that it would come on October 3rd, but sounds like definitely not before October 3rd.
Based on that, Donna, I
Yeah.
mean, Donna's office will know if it comes in, but I doubt they've been pretty close to, so maybe a day before, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't say before October 3rd.
But we do not have the money today, so that's that. And then I added a new item that we haven't really done before, but expenditure review, which is probably good timing, so basically, I think part of what this board needs to do is make sure, once we approve the projects and people start spending the money, that before we close a project out, that we just take a look at in detail at the expenditures and make sure that they all fall within the rules. And almost like an audit, but not really an audit, just a double check, because I think that the finance office does look at it, but it definitely helps, since this is such a different thing, that we should do that.
So I can tell you that all of the POs are going through the selectman's office. So Kelsey gets all of the request, generates the purchase orders, and they go through. So she's been trying to check to match up. So before we come in and, ask Donna if we're good to close, make sure that everything she's put in
Mhm.
has been finalized, checking with the project manager, whoever that may be, to make sure they're complete. What we did find last week, where there's at least in one category, and I apologize, I don't know if it was in the summer camp area or in the ambulance, I think it was the summer camp, where there were expenses in there that we didn't put in through my office. So I'm not sure how they got put in, so just trying to take a look at that and balance that so that we make sure all the documentation we have matches, everywhere else, kind of a check to Donna's accounting as well. So I think, and again, I apologize, I think it was the summer camp when we were looking at, that's really the only one. I think that's the one she didn't have. My office didn't have everything that was on Donna's sheet.
Mhm.
So in Donna's expenditures, we couldn't account for that because they didn't come in through us. So that was Friday, we were taking a look at that. So I don't have any clear answers, but my guess is that it was either in the accounting office where they were put in, either Tish or Rasheen, or, and probably Tish, I don't think Rasheen had access to that account, or Kelsey.
I think I know what you're talking about. There were a few receipts that were lost and we had to actually go to Walmart and get copies of the receipts and
Okay.
those were submitted through finance. So that must
Okay.
have been what
All
happened.
right, so we'll want to just kind of work together to get those, and I know Kelsey has them in her to-do pile. Just so that we can, all of her records accurately match all of the purchase orders that she puts in, because they're going in through just that one office. But I think we've got a pretty good system of double checking on our end and then turn it over to the finance office to say, with the project manager, is this ready to complete, so that hopefully we don't end up with a situation where we're looking at with the radios.
Oh, with the radio?
Well, so Donna's saying there was an expense
Mhm.
to this year. I don't think our numbers match up with that. So we're trying to take a look at everything we have and then turn it over to the finance office to say, now, we believe this project is done and ready to close. Have them look at it before it comes to the commission,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. That process.
Yeah. And then, like, if we had just had a printout of everything before we closed on those, Troy would have probably noticed it too.
Yeah, I know the
Yeah.
PO was made out for it, so. I know,
Yeah.
like, it wasn't, because those radios were bought before the ARPA even was formed.
Mhm.
So that's, yeah.
And unless either Kelsey or someone in the finance office put the PO in, no one else can put in a PO for ARPA funds.
Right. Right.
So it's either the finance office or us, but yeah, looking at that sheet, so we double checked that this was really beneficial as we were going through them on Friday.
Mhm.
To get a good sense, and that's where we found some things she didn't have a copy of, and she's got a pretty meticulous.
Well, and one of the things that I noticed and asked Donna about was in the ambulance, like one of the expenditures is for insurance for the ambulance. And that jumped out at me because I don't think that we're supposed to be using the ARPA funds for recurring things like that. So.
And that's one that would have happened, probably, what would have happened on your end? I don't know who put, I know we have to take a look to see who put that in, because we don't typically get the insurance billing.
I think, before Erica, we ironed out our system of everything goes to you.
It's probably,
We started out with things in the finance office, and that's how these couple of things went through finance. And, so insurance is definitely a recurring, but some things maybe like supplies are also recurring.
Mhm.
And we've been purchasing some supplies with ARPA funds. So
so the first time insurance payment on the second ambulance, I'd have to look to see if it's outside the parameters of ARPA, but that might make sense to build into this if the funds allow for it. And then that's one of the recurring expenses that would be on their budget, which I think they talked about when they brought the project to us.
Right. All right.
But I would say if we keep.
Can
that
I
process
speak on that?
where it's, if it's looked at first through the selectman's office, then we have an opportunity to look at those discrepancies and then go to finance. And the project manager to say, are you ready to close before it comes back to ARPA?
Yeah.
And that's where we're at now, is just kind of reviewing all of those that Donna gave us.
Mhm. Samantha, did you? I don't see it.
Yeah, just I wanted to speak. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I just wanted to speak to what Erica just said, that we'd want to go back to the original, like the final rule, and make sure, look at whether that was an allowable expense. And I don't think that actually is. And I remember when we were discussing it, we were talking about ongoing expenses. It was one of our concerns about okaying the project, honestly, because we weren't allowed to do anything that would do that. Well, we were concerned about creating something for this commission, creating a future expense for the taxpayer. So I remember that being a discussion, but I just want to mention that I think that one of the not allowable things under ARPA final rule was anything that would ultimately act as a lowering of taxes And it would, and ultimately that does, if that is an ongoing expense, and it's not related to the pandemic. So I would just be very concerned about that. And I think we should review it. And by it being, and like I said, an ongoing or supported expense. And also we didn't approve that. So that to me is concerning, because I know, like, for instance, being on EDC, you know, they have all kinds of, we didn't end up spending all the 300K, and they have all sorts of ideas about what to do with the remaining portion of it, but we would have to go back through and get it approved. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and to suggest that we look over the final rule, because that is the point of the committee, right? Is us reviewing it and making sure that it's all within compliance.
Yeah, Samantha, I agree. We need to look at the final rule. I don't recall anything that excluded insurance payments. There is no language about excluding things that would recur within our budget. That's not exclusive, because we can use it for any typical government expense, which some of
Well,
these.
Erica, that might be true, but this committee didn't approve that,
Can I finish?
regardless of whether that's
Can
true
I
or not.
finish? But I want to make sure it's not done. It could be argued that every supply on that ambulance is a recurring expense, but we are outfitting it to begin. And I think that, and again, I didn't put this payment in and wasn't part of the discussion, but I could see the argument that the initial payment was part of setting up the ambulance for the first time. And then everything else will be within their budget, and they're aware of that. This commission can decide that, but I'd like to go back through the rule, but I don't recall anything specifically that left out the insurance payment. And I don't see it as them just trying to use up their funds. Those are my comments. And I don't know if Tom can speak to that. Stuart is not here to speak to that, but it would not surprise me if, looking at outfitting the ambulance to get on the road, which was what we said we were utilizing that money for, and all of the supplies that were purchased, the majority of them would be ongoing expenses within a budget. Would that be accurate, Tom?
Yeah, I don't have anything further to add.
Okay.
And you already
All right.
mentioned, we'll just have to talk to Stuart now.
Yeah, just to see where their mindset was.
I mean, I guess in my mind, it's a consumable product versus an actual, like, annual expense,
Yeah.
like, which we know that's an annual expense. Bandages is a consumable product. So, and we may need a different amount or a different type every single year, but that might be the distinction. I didn't go back and look through the rule to try to see if they actually parse that out, but I will. And then it made me think, what about the new skid steer? Is that insured as well? And are we using ARPA to insure that on the first year?
Or not, because it's under the town policy and they just added on.
Would that be the same in the fire department?
No, they have their own insurance.
Okay.
And then I don't know if there's other things, nothing else came to mind as I was thinking about it, but just something we should definitely look at when we're doing this.
That document in front of me, can you tell me how much that was?
The insurance,
Mm-hmm.
let's see. Let me look it up.
Or if Donna has.
It was like in that $2,000 or $3,000 range. Transactions.
Looks like it was 2,000. Looks like it was $2,500 for the premium.
Yeah. That's what I remember.
So can we just maybe reach out to Chief Moore and have him kind of come in and talk with us, certainly before we close out that project. I would say let's have a discussion. It'll give us time to look at the rule, just to be sure it doesn't have any language that precludes that. So decide as a commission if that's an expense we feel is allowable.
Right. Okay. And that goes for.
Christina, I have my hand raised.
Samantha, Beforehand.
So I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't saying that that anyone was trying to spend anything left over, just saying that it's easy enough to do. If the ambulance had cost the full amount, then that wouldn't have been allowed. And I thought that this was put in, put out, and put back in, which I don't know why that is, but maybe there, I guess I just looked at that and thought that there was a question about whether that should be in this budget or not. And I just want to clarify that what I was saying is, I personally don't think it's allowed, but more concerning to me than that is that it was not, it was something that we did discuss and we could review the past, and not specifically insurance, but definitely ongoing expenses, maybe insurance. And that's the part that I'm finding concerning, is that it's just being put in there. And that's why I agree with what, even though I understand that there's now a process that seems to be going pretty well. Christina had brought up that before we sign off, that we would need to finally audit things or just check them out. And I agree with that. So my bringing that up about whether the commission had approved that portion is in support of her saying that, because I felt that that was part of the charge and why we had this commission to begin with. Thank you.
And I think, you know, if you, basically, if we have a project that's ready to be closed and we think it's done, then I would put it on the agenda. I don't think we should come to a meeting without knowing ahead of time and having that print out so that we can all look at it in advance and ask questions. And so when we come, we'll close it. And, but also keeping just an expenditure review item on the agenda, just in case something comes up that we have questions about or whatever. I think that will help. Yeah. So, and anything else that anybody wanted to bring up with the expenditures? Stuart?
My notes indicate that we thought we could go ahead with the survey costs
Mm-hmm.
at the last meeting, so we agreed to. And Alan just told me that it's on hold.
But the whole project was on.
The whole project is on hold?
Well, that's fine. We talked about just the survey portion and said, let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, well. Are they submitting an invoice
Well,
for it?
Eventually, yeah.
Alan
Yeah.
told me he stopped it because he
Mhm.
was told that we're gonna wait for tranche 2. So is that the new news that we're waiting?
I thought that's what we said last
Yeah,
time, right there.
I
There
thought-
we did. You could, when there's funding, you can move forward with the survey portion of it, but I don't know that. I don't recall that, but that,
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where. We have 99.9% surety that this money's coming in. And we definitely approved that project to be funded. It's just, we cannot give any of the ARPA. So if you have a vendor that wants to be paid out, we can't pay them yet. So that's. If they were willing to wait, do the work and wait a little bit, that's one thing, but they're taking a very small risk, but. That's sort of how I see it. And October 3rd, which is, I was just looking at 2 weeks from today, which is actually when we would have our next meeting, because it's the first Monday. Hopefully. I mean, the money could come in while we're in that meeting. I don't know.
I don't think there's anything preventing the survey activity from happening. It is
Right.
traditionally, they perform a service, they bill at the end of the service, you've got 30 days to pay. So if he performs a survey and bills it out in the first week of October, payable by November, it should all work out.
Yeah,
I think, I don't think there's anything preventing Carl from going through and beginning his services with the understanding that he can provide an invoice, but there's nothing that's going to be paid.
which means we wouldn't be putting in a PO for it.
right.
So, I mean, that's. So do we kind of do the steps out of sync? Is that the better way to do it? I understand the desire to move this forward. I think everyone has a desire to move the project forward, but we have to be cautious about the fact that we don't have the money, and what if we don't get the money for another 6 months from some craziness?
But I thought there was a little money in the balance we discussed last time. The
There-
discussion was, I think we can go ahead with this because, we have some money left over from other projects.
Yeah.
So I'll do
and we
whatever
do.
the committee decides is fine with me.
We do. I think that even with, you thought it would be less than $10,000, right? I forget,
Well,
like
you
five.
got 2,900
Right.
and 7,600 was approved.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think we haven't approved for that money to be spent. I think we can make a motion like up to some amount, whatever, $5,000.
Sure.
Because we definitely have the padding. But then we need to think about all the other projects and do they all need like a little bit to get started or a little bit to get out of the gate?
Right, I mean, I can think of some projects that are, really dependent, weather dependent, the furnace at the Wellington Hill and the generator at Public Works. I think every project is worthy of starting now, but where do we draw the line at where the funding goes?
Right. We have $30,000 has been returned from closed projects. And we know because we haven't closed some of these other ones, we know that we're gonna pick up a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. So we do have some things, and this one is broken up into pieces where like a furnace project is the whole thing. So, I mean, I would be okay with saying that they can encumber $5,000 or. We know we could cover it.
Seems reasonable.
So would 5,000 do it? Okay, so I'll make a motion that we, what's the word? Approve. Approve, up to $5,000 of the previously approved ARPA.
17,
17, 18, yeah, 17, 18.
Oh.
To be spent. Or. What's the word?
It's survey work.
Yeah, for survey work. To be encumbered, I guess. When it was previously on hold.
Second.
Any more discussion about that one? Okay. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so motion passes. So you guys are good for the survey work. Officially good. With the other unfinished business on the agenda, I had asked everybody to send me updates and I put them all in here. Anything else that jumps out at you that has been updated since last week or any questions on any of these? Very long list.
Can I just ask, the update on the band room was that we were just waiting for final bills? Are we still waiting for those, Donna, do you know?
Yes, we're still waiting.
They did do the work, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
we thought,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was nice and cool when we went on our visit
Yeah.
with Congressman Courtney, yes,
yeah. So, I
it's
don't
just the
know.
billing.
So. Anything else?
Can I ask for a more specific, we haven't heard anything about the EDC dollars, that's a big chunk of change. And
Yeah.
we really, I'd like to hear a little bit more. Mike wasn't at, I think it was at our last meeting, maybe.
Yeah,
Or Samantha to tell us where we're at with that.
Yeah, there were, I believe, 17 applications that were approved. In total, there were 2 that needed additional information and 2 that didn't qualify, so there was some time trying to get them to provide the information that was required. So emails started going out Friday and will continue to go out today to let people know that they've been approved. That the next step will be that they're going to be signing an agreement essentially, and then once they respond back and then they can do the contact and all that information that we'll need for those agreements. We'll move forward with the next steps there. The agreement that is to be signed was vetted by Heller and Sage. We sent that to them for review, make sure that it did all the things it needed to do. So we are not, I don't have the total because not everybody requested the full amount. So people demonstrated what they were requesting and we're not going to need the full 300,000. I think it's somewhere around 220 and Sam can jump in. Probably $70,000 or $80,000 that can be returned.
And when do you think the timing on that would be? There,
It's just going to be a matter of getting, I mean, there's basically 17 separate contracts. So getting all that stuff executed with individuals, whether we do it little by little or whatever, I'm not entirely sure how long it'll take. Hopefully in the, in the next week or two. Shouldn't take too long,
Okay.
not complicated contracts.
great.
I'll jump in. Madam Chairperson, sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I speak, it's awkward being out here and I don't know how to always do that. And I tried to raise my hand, but I didn't know if you saw it. In any case, yeah, I think you're right on with that. I think it was 228 or maybe 235, but again, that is to be determined as they approve the applications and reach out to the people. But we did discuss, and I just wanted to bring this to your attention, we didn't discuss it at this last meeting, and it was only briefly discussed at the meeting before that because the warehouse is kind of taking over a lot of like the attention and discussion. But we talked about potentially doing a second round. And Mike, you might speak to this. I thought we were tabling that, potentially doing a second round or before we said like, no, we didn't spend the whole amount, to try to possibly come up with a different proposal that I know we would have to start all over and submit it. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because we thought we may do a second round of these, which would allow us to fully spend the amount.
Yeah, I think the question was, who would we capture in the second round? We didn't really have anybody reach out that said, oh, I missed the deadline, or I didn't know. We blasted it out to via Facebook, our business list. We sort of did all the things we could do. And so running it and opening it up again, we weren't sure who we would capture. They did do a little bit of discussing what else could we use the funds for, but yeah, as she mentioned, there was no real consensus. But I think the intent by the EDC is that when they know how much they're returning, if there is a plan, they sort of want to say, here's the money that we have left, and we have some suggestions on how to best use it, but they don't have a decision yet.
Okay.
Right, I just have to follow up. So I recall the conversation being, you weren't fully committed to how much you were going to give until you knew how many applicants you had. And then that was initial conversations. So was it a concrete number? Because I just want to make sure if you went for a second round that it was equitable.
Yeah, no, there was a cap as far as a maximum amount. So they have to demonstrate and request that specific amount. It wasn't, it doesn't fluctuate after they close.
But it was between X and X, like
It
up
was-
to 15,000.
Yeah, 0. I can't remember if they ended up capping it at 10 or 15, going back and forth. But a lot of folks demonstrated a loss of X, Y, and Z, and they only are requesting 9,000. So the grant would be for that, based upon what they were able to demonstrate. The funds will be used for.
But was that determining number based on the amount of applicants you had,
No.
or the amount of potential businesses that could apply?
It was capped in the like ahead of time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. And any other questions for EDC?
No, I just look forward to that process moving forward so that, those dollars could get really into the hands of folks who needed them. Can I ask at this point, Christina, we had a communication and it was discussed at Board of Finance regarding ARPA 35, your community cares and their
yeah.
process. Can I ask you to speak to that? I think you know that I did not partake in the conversation. about this, but I think ARPA is the place where we should have that discussion based on the communication that came forth.
Yeah, so there was a question about it. Or maybe it was an assumption that we were gonna be distributing ARPA funds to a nonprofit that is not in Wellington. And what I explained that night, and what I believe is true, is that the money is passing through the Human Services Department, and they are actually already a vendor that we are using to do a service, and this is an enhanced version of that service. And so basically, we're just beefing up something that already exists, but and it, to me, sounds like a great project because it's to help seniors and make connections between seniors and other people that can help them in a true community building way. So I think that's why we all supported it, but I don't think there's any truth to that we're passing money through to this nonprofit.
No,
That's
no,
not
it's going
nothing.
through my budget, it's going
Yeah.
through my department, you're absolutely correct.
Hmm.
Assessment.
Okay.
So I will tell you in full disclosure, this will be the only thing I'll talk about it with the commission, have their own conversation. The concern that came forth from the individual was that the originator of the charity, so president, CEO, is a relative of mine. I did not take part in the conversation. I had disclosed that, and I think it's important that this commission speak publicly about where the dollars were going and why they're going there, and that it had absolutely nothing to do with an individual that I happen to be related to. I did not solicit the ARPA application. It was done in conjunction with the work they do within our Human Services Department already as a vendor, and that the dollars go to assist seniors within our community. So I just want that fully on the record in public.
Yep. I can verify that. I recall that, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't think, I didn't know that there was a relation, so. It doesn't matter. Anything else, any of the other things? It sounds like the skid steer, we might be able to put on the close list for the next meeting if it's got paid for. Right?
Yeah.
That one's straightforward.
Yep.
Um,
Just one invoice.
Was the check-in, is it in today still?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, hopefully next.
and then I was just gonna ask Jenny about the fuel bank. Like, when do people start making requests for that?
It's already ongoing,
Yeah,
yeah.
so the requests, the payouts probably haven't started, but.
So I have had to, I pay it out of my fuel bank
Mhm.
funds that I currently have. This is additional monies that I haven't received, and
Mhm.
I'm just hoping I don't run out.
Mhm.
Because this is the time of year that the fuel bank gets hit hard, because this is the time between when you need oil and when you can get your first delivery for energy assistance. So even if you applied for energy assistance and were approved today, first delivery is until November.
Mhm.
So you have to make it through until then.
Right,
So this is a very difficult time of year for my fuel bank.
so is the process though, you're going to just use your regular fuel
I
fund? Or
have to until I have this. When I have this, I intend on spending this money first because it
Mhm.
needs to be spent.
so this money is being held up because it's part of that tranche too?
Correct.
So it sounds like that's another one that we need to.
Yeah.
maybe
This is,
make a move on.
yeah, I mean,
I'm not-
which is,
Yeah.
you know, why when we worked before, although I think starting those
Yeah.
are important, that survey work, this is what I'm talking about.
Well, I was
We're
gonna
having to get,
a full amount of what I currently have in the fuel bank, and then if I needed to do that, I was gonna bring it to the next meeting.
Hmm.
well, hopefully the good news, Jenny, is that at the next meeting, we'll have this fund.
Yeah,
Fingers
We'll have
crossed.
these funds.
yeah.
Nice.
Well, should we make a motion to just like release like $5,000 for this one too? Just to like tide you over?
That might be good. I would not be opposed to that.
Is that the right amount?
I don't think that it necessarily needs to be so much.
Mhm.
Can I would like to make a motion that we authorize the full amount of, I'm looking for the number.
25,000.
No, ARPA 21. Fuel, 25,000 for fuel assistance be made available within the tranche 1 funds. And that the ARPA 15 senior center staffing be utilized out of tranche 2.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
Someone-
A second.
Second.
So,
Wait a second.
so my reason being is I'm still working with the union to work on the salary discussions, the wages portion. And so we haven't spent any of those dollars and we won't be spending it before October 3rd.
Hmm.
So while it's just sitting there, I'd rather make sure that our residents have the assistance they need. That was the main focus of these ARPA funds.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Jenny, will you use all that right away? Or do you like try to save some of it for like December or January? February?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, I try and make it last as long as I possibly can.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that this motion is just for the moving of the fund from one trench to another, to
Yeah,
submit it earlier. Okay.
yep. Any more about that? Any questions? Are we ready to roll? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Anyone abstain? Oh, Jenny's abstaining. I'm abstaining. Okay. So anything else about some of our previously funded requests?
That is great.
No? All right, then we can move on to our previously heard requests, which is really just the library building structure. We have not gone to public hearing with that one yet, but as soon as we get back going again, I think that one will be on that list. And then updates on the request heard at public hearing. The ARPA 32 and 36 are in the selectmen's hands now to discuss and call a town meeting. And the flags, grave markers and monument repair is the only other one. And there you guys are.
So I will say that I had a meeting with the group from this nonprofit, the Wellington Veterans Memorial nonprofit. So we discussed that what they're proposing is to take responsibility for town structures and some town funding. And so I think I'll say verbally, we've ironed out all the details. I think it's important to memorialize that in a document that we will both agree to sign, so that if and when both parties are not at the table, there's a full understanding of what their work is and their role is. If their organization were to not exist, that then these things will go back to the town. So I look forward to putting that in writing, and some of that will require some restructuring of funds that go through Seniors Inc. Per a previous unwritten agreement. And so I would say before actual spending, we want to have that. But as far as the selectman's office is concerned, I would be comfortable moving forward with this project if the commission so chooses. But that I think we shouldn't spend any funds until we have that document created and we're working on it. But we had a good discussion.
Good. Okay, so should we?
So what is
There's
the
a motion
number?
on the table, so
Yeah.
There was, can I move to take
take it off.
the motion regarding ARPA 33 off the table?
Second.
All in favor of taking it off the table?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right, it's off the table. So now is there a motion to,
It's already
Yeah,
there.
so
So you just have to vote.
yeah, all right, so,
Continue any, if anyone else wanted to discuss, right?
yeah. All right, so I guess, any more discussion? Do we have the actual motion that was made?
Yeah.
Back in the back.
Tom made a motion to approve ARPA 33 as submitted, and I seconded.
Okay,
And then we had discussion, so I just didn't know if anyone had questions about our.
any more discussion on that? The only thing that I would ask is, we're obviously using tranche 2. And we obviously are on hold until we get the money, so as long as that's
Yeah.
okay,
We understand.
yeah, okay. All right,
Yeah,
so,
Can I ask Tom if he's willing to amend the motion? Well, I don't know. I would like us not to spend any of the dollars until we have a written agreement with the
Mhm.
town, but if we're all in the understanding, they can't
Yeah,
do it
we're
until
ju-
October 3rd, so hopefully we
Right,
can do
we're
it.
just waiting on you whenever you have it ready. We'll go through it.
okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right, motion passes.
I want to abstain from this vote and the vote before this because I didn't really understand them and I wasn't a part of that discussion. So I just wanted to make a note of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Makes sense. Moving on, we don't have any projects to close. And funding request submissions, possible action, we actually don't have anything that we can act on, other than what we just did. So, that brings us to present to speak. Ed?
This is more of a, I'm asking this for another group, but, it recently came to my attention that, the seniors are having a problem with the commercial gas stove that they have in there, with the fact that it's not self-igniting and every time they have to use it, they have to light it, which to me is a safety hazard, because anytime you're lighting propane, and if somebody doesn't know how to light it correctly, you can have a possible flare back. And would replacing a stove like that, that's used for the breakfasts and their thing, would that be something that would come under ARPA? Would that be a qualifying
So,
project?
I would say it could be considered.
yeah, I would say that.
Okay, because I was gonna talk to Jenny about this to see about maybe getting that submitted,
Mhm.
because to replace the stove and to have a licensed propane dealer come in and hook it up is gonna cost overall probably around $5,000.
Hmm.
We're just not
The-
taking new
yeah.
submissions yet.
Yeah.
We're just not accepting submissions.
Right,
currently.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right, I
that
understand that,
day will come though. and-
I understand
And
that.
it'd be good to
It's-
be
it's-
ready.
It's just that, from having lit that stove a couple of times, I mean, I've lost hair on my forearms because of blowbacks and I just feel very uncomfortable with seniors in there doing something like that. And if we could replace it with something that has pilotless ignition, where they just turn it in a, even like the new gas outdoor grills that they have.
Yeah,
I think it would be beneficial. I do believe that it's a possible safety hazard.
and the senior center is an organization that can definitely make requests to the ARPA Commission, so,
Okay,
yeah, I don't see why.
would that be something that we would go through senior services director as well? Could,
I mean,
You could go through me, you could also go through the Wellington Seniors Inc. because it's a 501(c)(3).
right, okay. All right, I will bring that back to them at
Mhm.
their next meeting then.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, speaking as the CIP chair too, those requests are gonna start we're gonna start asking for
Just
them.
I just want to make things clear that the senior center doesn't know that I mentioned this today. I'm doing this just to find out the information so
Yeah.
that if I go back to them and mention it, that I can say that, well, I've already checked it out and it would qualify as
Yeah.
a possible ARPA project.
I think
The other,
that's-
the other point is they have to get on their hands and knees to light it.
Right,
Oh, my
So-
God.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
gonna hurt.
whoever gets down there.
can it be fixed?
Well,
No,
I
that's why they light the
no,
stove.
I went in there,
It's been that way since they got the stuff?
yeah.
Oh, so that's the stuff
Probably
they
just
chose.
on the-
Yeah, I went in there and I tried to find a vendor that might be able to retrofit it to put pilotless ignitions and ignition and stuff in it, and that particular model of stove, because of the age, can't be done.
So it's working, it's just not
It's-
the
it's
ideal, it's not
working.
the ideal.
Right,
function.
right.
I know.
And, I used to get down on my hands and knees. I can't do that anymore, not with two artificial knees. And I see some of these older members doing it and I don't know, I worry.
Yeah, that doesn't sound ideal. Okay. Any
You'll
other-
see when it opens again, that'll ask questions about how that might be related, and you could refer to it as a social hub and a safe place for the seniors during potential, just as it being a place for social gathering and activity. I'm trying to explain how it would be qualifying under ARPA expenses.
Yeah. So. All right, any other person to speak? I don't see anybody. All right, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, wait, Tom had to.
Just throw something out, talking about our next meeting or. Well, we talked about going to once a month and all that, and maybe changing the time. Is there any? Would like a Monday, the second or fourth Monday, like at 6:30, 7 o'clock work or not? Like go to once a month maybe and kind of change it to a little bit later.
Mhm.
Throw it-
The fourth is gonna overlap with the commission meeting in the land use office, so it would include me. I don't know if that overlaps with
Second Monday?
the fourth. The fourth Monday.
The second, as a regular standing, the second Monday is library board, that's their regular meeting, just for. I know sometimes boards
That's fourth
have
Monday,
to, and the fourth is rec commission.
right? Fourth, yeah.
Yeah.
Fourth.
Fourth Monday is rec commission.
Correct.
All, and these things overlap, we try as much as we can, but if the commission,
So
and its members, can meet them, and we tend to do that about what the commission speak to. It's very difficult to find in. Is it a meeting?
Right.
It's so hard.
So if we're looking at October, the second Monday would be the 10th,
That's Columbus.
which is Columbus Day. If we stick with our regular schedule for October, it'd be October 3rd and October 17th at 1:30.
So maybe let's start with, do we feel like we still need twice a week?
Twice a month, yeah.
Twice a month, sorry, twice a week.
Well, I guess one of the thoughts I had was, can we have a discussion or make a decision that when the funding comes in, we can sort of open up receiving new applications, so that if we have a gap of a week or two between our two meetings and we get the funding, can we open that up and allow people to start submitting, or do we need to have a meeting? And it seems like we're all pretty open to the fact that we're gonna have more money, we're gonna accept more applications, and so it seems to me, can we just sort of set it up so that when the money comes in, or do we need to wait?
So our next meeting is right now, the 3rd, at 1:30. That's what we could discuss. And then if we have to have a bigger
Yeah.
discussion, if we don't get our funding.
Right.
Mhm.
And then just, maybe say that, is there any reason why we think we couldn't, and how long do we want to leave it up for? Or leave it open for, do we want to, put a time frame on it initially?
Are we definitely meeting the 3rd and the 17th? As of right now?
As of right now, that's the schedule. Yep.
So if we are meeting the 3rd, then I think, Mike, that we could just not do that. But if we're thinking of changing anything past the 3rd, I think what Mike is saying is a good idea.
Mhm.
So it seems like based upon when the funding would come in, we should meet on the 3rd and see where things stand at that point,
Mhm.
and make a decision from there on what we need for the 14th or November.
Right.
I-
That sounds good.
My sense would be just keep things the way that they are for the 3rd, and then if we get further into the process and we have a lot of applications and things for the second round, and we need to flex when we meet to be, different times or days or whatever, I think we can do that, but I think right now we're sort of in this limbo.
Yeah.
And maybe on the 3rd, we'll have some projects that we could close, a little more concrete information, because right now we've only, if everything worked out with these exact dollars, we'd only have about 119,000 to allocate, and so I'd want to have a good discussion on how we open up that process again and what that looks like.
Mhm.
We put a time frame on closing it so that we can have a whole discussion and put everyone who might want to submit additional requests on an even
Right,
footing. And maybe by then, we'll have some more concrete numbers out of EDC.
Yep.
I suggest we stay with the third and add that to our discussion.
yeah. Okay, great. Any other things to say? All right, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
all right, there's a second? Troy, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thanks, Samantha.
Yes.